Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on Native American graduation adornments. My name is John Osis, and I'm with the California Department of Education. Today, we'll be talking about the rights of Native American students to wear tribal regalia at graduation and how we as educators and school leaders can support and respect these rights. So as I mentioned, my name is John Osis. I'm with the Foster Youth Office here at the California Department of Education, and I'm an education programs consultant. And I am interimly supporting the work with Native American education. I would like to pass it on to my colleagues to introduce themselves. I will pass it on to Deborah first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Avalos. I'm the Education Administrator over the Integrated Student Support and Programs Office, and our office oversees the American Indian Education Program at the California Department of Education.
And I'm Heidi Brahms. I work also in the same department and work with the Native American Indian Programs Office, supporting that, as well as homeless education programs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Heidi. So this is the agenda that we'll be covering today during our webinar. So first, we're going to start with our introduction and look at the legislation that protects Native American adornment rights. Then we're going to explore the benefits of supporting our Native American students in this way, looking at best practices as well as sharing resources with you all. We also, finally, but most importantly, we would say we also have some guest speakers joining us today from the ACLU, from the Native American Legal Coalition. I really hope I'm getting that right. My apologies in advance. And also the Eureka City Schools. So to begin, the right to wear Native American adornments is grounded in California Education Code Section 35183.1. This law ensures that students can express their cultural heritage and wear traditional items such as tribal regalia at school ceremonies, which includes graduations. This is a powerful step towards honoring the diversity of our student population and affirming their identities. This law says that students can wear tribal regalia or items of cultural or religious importance as adornment with their caps and gowns. Schools can only prohibit these items if they're likely to disrupt the ceremony. The law also defines what adornment and cultural means and clarifies that this applies to all local education agencies, school districts, county offices of education, and charter schools. So per Education Code 35183.1, subsection A pupil may wear traditional tribal regalia or recognize objects of religious or cultural significance as an adornment at school's graduation ceremony. Schools can only prohibit these items if they're likely to disrupt the ceremony. The law also defines that an adornment means something attached to or worn with, but not replacing the cap and gown customarily worn at school graduation ceremonies. Cultural is defined as means, recognized practices, and traditions of a certain group of people. Local education agency means a school district, county office of education, or charter school. Assembly Bill 1248 builds on Education Code by explicitly protecting Native American students' rights to wear regalia at high school graduation ceremonies. The law explicitly protects Native American students' rights to wear their cultural items at the graduation ceremony without fear of discrimination or restriction. It requires schools to respect Native cultural practices and ensure tribal students are allowed to wear attire that is meaningful to their heritage during graduation. This bill encourages cultural understanding by requiring schools to work with Native American families and communities to respect and support these practices. In situations where a student wishes to wear regalia, school staff should not remove, restrict, or modify the attire unless it poses a direct security concern. Some other legislation to consider is Education Code 44015, which prohibits against discrimination based on race, ethnicity, and cultural heritage in schools. This is important because it provides broader legal protection for Native American students to express their cultural identities, including wearing regalia, without fear of discrimination. In addition, Title V regulations focus on the rights of students to participate in educational activities in ways that are not discriminatory. This can support the argument that students should be allowed to wear tribal regalia or culturally significant items without facing penalties or exclusion. These laws reinforce the protections Native Americans have when expressing their identity. So when Native American students feel seen, respected, and valued for their cultural identity, especially during such significant milestones, such as graduations, it can have a profound positive psychological academic impacts. And these effects go beyond just the ceremony themselves, but also influencing their overall well-being, their sense of belonging, and long-term success within education. So the following slides are several key ways in which honoring and respecting Native American students' cultural identity positively impacts them. So to start, when Native students are seen and respected for who they are, especially during these milestones such as graduation, it increases that sense of belonging. And this sense of belonging has been linked to increased mental well-being, reduced feelings of isolation, which are common within our students from marginalized communities. Additionally, a strong sense of belonging in school is associated with greater academic engagement. When students feel included, they're more likely to participate in class, stay motivated, and push through challenges because they see themselves as valued members of the school community. Graduation ceremonies that allow for the expression of cultural identity also strengthen students' connection, not just to their family, but to their tribe and their communities. And these connections provide a strong support network, both emotionally and socially. Knowing that their community stands behind them, Native students feel more secure in their identity and more capable of facing life's challenges. This sense of community support has been shown to positively influence academic success. When students have access to emotional and social support, they are more likely to persevere in their studies, seek help when needed, and ultimately complete their education. Students who feel supported are more likely to stay in school and continue their educational journey. For that reason, respecting a student's culture doesn't just make them feel good, it actually improves those academic outcomes. So when students feel accepted and valued, they're more likely to stay in school and succeed. So that cultural recognition leads to higher graduation rates. And this is especially important for academic retention. Studies have shown that students who feel that their cultural identity is acknowledged are more likely to persist in their education and graduate. So when Native American students feel culturally respected, they are less likely to drop out or disengage from school. For that reason, as school leaders, we need to have clear written policies that protect the right to wear regalia. We should work directly with our tribal communities to understand what these items mean and ensure that your respective school staff receive the proper training so that we don't unintentionally cause harm. And to walk us through some of the best practices within our local education agencies, I will pass the mic to my colleague Heidi Brahms. Heidi, you're on mute.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. So we're going to take a look at some of the best practices for LEAs to embark on this and how to implement and how to work with tribal communities on this work. So some practical implementation strategies is first that schools, districts should have clear and written policies to ensure that Native students can wear their tribal regalia at graduation ceremonies. And those graduation ceremonies include all graduation ceremonies, kindergarten, culminations, elementary to middle school, transitions also from middle school to high school. And we do this, the policy should definitely, of course, reflect the state and federal laws. Next. So in working with your Native communities, and communities, we mean the communities that are part of your school district, boundaries, community, schools should engage with them through the tribal leaders, through families that you have that are enrolled in the school, to understand the cultural significance of the regalia, have those conversations, learn from the Native American tribes within your community, and of course, make sure that those garments and that regalia are treated with the respect they deserve for those ceremonies. In terms of cultural competency, we want to ensure and understand that everyone in the school community has a common understanding of the attire, and that there are no perpetuating discriminatory practices going on within the school community and within the tribal and school community that are working together. Next. We want to create an inclusive environment for those graduation ceremonies. Those are huge, and we know. They're huge milestones for the students as well as the families. And at all grades, again, at all those graduation and culmination activities, we want to celebrate the diversity of all students. By allowing the Native American students to wear their specific regalia that may be important to their specific tribes, schools are going to be able to send a real powerful message that that community, that specific tribe, those parents are very valued and respected and honored. Also, honoring traditions is important. Schools can certainly dedicate time during graduation explicitly and intentionally at those events and highlight the importance of the Native American traditions and how they contribute to the broader cultural landscape. Next. How do we do that? Well, at the highlighting the Native American students' achievements. Graduation is that moment to celebrate all students' hard work to date at that graduation ceremony. LEAs should promote, and celebrate the contribution of Native American students and their cultures, both during the graduation and most definitely throughout the entire school year. It shouldn't be just a one-time event. Educational opportunities also throughout the entire student body can be learned by other students about those Native American cultures and traditions that are held in high respect. And that also, of course, and as John has mentioned earlier, provides more understanding, empathy, and respect within your school climate and culture. Next. Very important is to consult with the Native American students and families directly. Reach out, listen, ensure that your school recognizes that diversity within the Native American communities that are specific to the tribes within your school community and to the traditions of those different tribes. Different tribes exist in different areas of California. The cultural dialogue, fostering that dialogue, and dialogue means both directions. Strongly, I would suggest being a listener first, and to help increase that understanding and respect for cultural practices. And how do you do that? That can be done by hosting events or having discussions, having listening sessions where the LEA, teachers, staff, cafeteria staff, all come to just listen, possibly to some guiding questions. And that will educate the staff at the same time and across different stakeholder groups about not only the meaning of the cultural regalia, but the traditions and meanings of different events throughout the school year. Next. Provide professional development, another strategy that schools are certainly, and LEAs are certainly familiar with doing. Undergo training, cultural sensitivity, specifically to American Native students. This can also help the understanding of the importance of the regalia and its role in expressing the heritage of the tribes during those graduation ceremonies. It's also important to let the staff learn about how to handle the regalia, whether it be feathers, leis, whatever that be. How do you treat that regalia with respect to make sure that they are not mishandled or questioning the appropriateness of how it's worn unless there's a direct safety issue? Next, please, John. So, how do you go about developing that culture in your school with the Native American population and communities in your area? Policies that outline who can wear the regalia, when can that regalia be worn, and the respectful treatment of that regalia. That would include only the Native American students should be wearing regalia in ceremonies to ensure that it is not misused or trivialized. Passing around regalia is inappropriate. Those protocols are things that can easily be learned through conversations with your local tribes. Approval process may be in place for students to consult with their Native American leaders or with school staff if they have questions about their regalia to ensure that it is appropriately worn. And I would also like to add, explicitly stating that non-Native students cannot wear that regalia, the tribal regalia, or any attire without permission from the tribe or community. Those are those protocols that need to be, and kind of professional parameters that need to be maintained during the ceremony and at other times. Next. Set respectful guidelines for wearing and handling the regalia. Schools can set those clear expectations from the beginning for how regalia should be treated, both before and after the ceremonies. That would include proper storage, how that can be stored, where should it be stored, how do you handle that regalia, no misuse of the regalia, and how do you return to tradition? Sometimes, in some cases, the regalia may be passed down from one generation to the next. The school should emphasize the importance of maintaining its integrity and treating it with the utmost respect that it deserves. Have staff and administrators ready to monitor those graduation events and ensure that that respect is maintained during the ceremony. If students are unsure about how to wear or handle the regalia, staff should be present to provide guidance and ensure that it is treated with dignity. If a student is wearing regalia that is unfamiliar to the staff, it's important that they approach the situation respectfully, cautiously, and engage the student or a family member in a conversation regarding that regalia's meaning. Next, please. Plan. As an LEA, you must plan for diverse cultural attire. That is the best approach to this, and to be ready for any scenario or situations that may arise. When you're organizing the ceremony, ensure that all the students, whether Native American or from other cultures, have space to express themselves through their cultural attire. Consider a couple items, including a variety of cultural dress and regalia in the procession, so all students feel represented. And make sure that all the cultural attire, including the regalia, is treated again with that same respect and dignity as the traditional graduation gowns are. Next. Okay, assign a specific time for the cultural regalia to be honored. So this is during the actual ceremony, graduation ceremony. So when the ceremony begins, ensure the students who are wearing the regalia are explicitly acknowledged for their cultural contributions and that they would have the opportunity to proudly walk across the stage. This could be done in a couple ways, allowing the students that are wearing the regalia to walk first in the procession. So their cultural attire is easily visible and can be respected by all attendees. Consider making an announcement before the procession begins that celebrates that cultural diversity of the graduates. Acknowledging the regalia is okay to do, and sharing its significance might be a great learning opportunity for the participants at the graduation event. Next, please. In the program or the ceremony agenda, make sure to include a section on cultural respect where the significance is briefly explained. Take the opportunity to educate the audience and provide context for the students that are wearing the attire. If you as an LEA find it appropriate, include a cultural performance or a blessing as part of the actual ceremony to acknowledge the importance of the regalia and provide that respectful space for the students and families to celebrate accordingly. Prepare the audience. Ensure the audience, family, friends, community members is aware of the cultural significance of the regalia and creating that respectful atmosphere. It might involve a pre-ceremony education as part of the program or part of the opening remarks. Also, set some clear expectations intentionally and explicitly that the photographs or videography should be conducted with respect, avoiding behavior that could trivialize or misappropriately use the cultural regalia items. Next, please. Offer support during the ceremony. Assign a few staff members or cultural liaison officers to support those students that are wearing the regalia during the ceremony, before and after as well. They can be moving freely around the ceremony just to ensure that there is no negative reactions or any uncomfortable situations that may arise. Okay, now we're going to be taking a look at some resources for LEAs, advocacy, websites, organizations that can act as resources for you, the LEAs, in your development of these policies and moving forward in your work towards this graduation adornment ed code. Next, please. The Native American Rights Fund, they can offer you legal support on issues related to Native American rights, including the cultural rights of the Native students, such as the right to wear tribal regalia at the ceremonies. Also, they can provide guidance on education policies that impact Native American students and the communities. They also advocate for the protection of Native cultural practices in schools. Next, please. The Native American Rights Fund can also provide you with legal advice on crafting these policies that respect the Native American students' cultural rights and ensure protection of the regalia, and support the inclusion of Native traditions in educational settings beyond graduation ceremonies. You can consult with NARF for advice on aligning these policies with federal and state regulations. And we've provided for your ease the website at the bottom of that slide. And we will be mailing these slides to all of those of you that have registered for this event. The National Indian Education Association can offer you policy resources and guidance on creating inclusive educational environments, professional development for educators, your school leaders, and staff on the importance of supporting the Native traditions and cultural competence and cultural practices at the classroom level, as well as they can provide advocacy for Native American students, include the right for cultural expression during graduation and other school events. Next, please. How can the NIEA assist you? LEAs can work with them to develop and implement culturally responsive education policies. They are very open, and again, the website for them is at the bottom of that slide. Next, please. Another resource, the American Indian College Fund, can offer resources on culturally relevant education that can help inform school districts about the importance of integrating traditions into the classroom, the school experience from grades K through 12, even into higher education. Some of what they can support includes how to create respectful environments that honor Native American cultural attire and regalia. The College Fund can also provide advocacy and guidance for LEAs on how to create policies that reflect the cultural heritage of Native students. They can offer insights into how the policies can be implemented, as well as what those policies are, to promote higher education success and honor cultural practices. Again, the website is there for your convenience. Next, please. And the Native American Heritage Commission, another resource for you, can offer policy and guidance recommendations for respecting Native American cultural traditions, including those related to education. The needs and rights of Native communities and context of public schools, along with cultural recognition, is something they can also assist with. They also can provide expert advice to LEAs on how to honor cultural rights of Native American students, and offer recommendations on how to incorporate cultural practices such as wearing regalia into graduation ceremonies. Again, the website is located at the bottom of the slide for you. Next. Okay, so that website, and I'm looking at some of the messages, the AIEC at cde.ca.gov should be working. I wasn't able to test that while I was speaking. And if I could get any confirmation from my fellow CDE team members that all questions, we are requesting that all questions be posted into that website due to time constraints. We want to honor your time. We will then be taking those questions, formulating collectively the answers, and be emailing that frequently asked question document to all of you following within the next few days following this webinar. Do we have the right website there?
We do, Heidi.
Okay. Thank you. And John, I think I am handing it back to you on this slide.
I did. You know what, Heidi? I do see we are missing an O on that website.
Okay, so I will put that in right now, AIEOC at CDECA.gov.
Yeah.
Okay, we're sorry about that. Please feel free to email any and all of your questions there, and that way we will get to every single one in a timely manner.
And we will correct the slides as well. Once they're posted, we will make sure that the email is correctly represented there. So for our next portion of our webinar, we have quite a few folk attending here today. I'm really excited and very grateful that you're all here, and I think I got everybody's name and association correctly. So definitely I'd like to welcome Jennifer Holsler, who works for the California Indian Legal Services. As well, we have Larissa Grijalva, Jay Peterson, and Dakita Bodell, who are with the ACLU of Northern California. And last but definitely not least, we have Superintendent Gary Short from the Eureka City School. So I will pass the mic to you all, and I'm happy to continue moving the slides along.
John is asked to share slides.
Okay, not a problem. So I will stop sharing.
I've just sent the request to share.
All right, you should be able to.
Fabulous. Everybody can see my screen. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us all today, and we appreciate the California Department of Education for providing the ACLU of Northern California, the California Indian Legal Services, and Eureka City Schools with the time to share more about the right of students to wear tribal regalia and other cultural or religious adornment at graduation, and our view of how best to support Native students in pursuing that right. And we'll go again to the next slide. And we'll start here. This is like our agenda for our presentation, our portion of the presentation today, and we'll start with a quick introductions from everybody here on our side. I'll start. My name is Dakota Bodell. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a legal advocacy associate at the ACLU of Northern California, and I'll pass it to my colleague, Larissa.
Thanks, Dakota. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Larissa Grijalva, and I'm a legal fellow with the ACLU of Northern California. And I'll pass it on to Heather.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heather Hostler. I'm the Executive Director at California Indian Legal Services, and I'm a citizen of the Hoopa Valley Tribe. and I'm going to pass it to Jay.
Sure. My name is Jay Peterson. I'm a senior attorney with California Indian Legal Services. One of my practice areas is First Amendment rights of Native people in school, public employment, private employment, and prison contexts.
And we'll pass it to Gary.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Gary Stewart, superintendent with Eureka City Schools. Blessed to be here and looking forward to talking about how we can do right by our Native peoples.
Thanks, everyone. So as you'll see here, we have just a quick agenda, which we'll start getting right into because I know we're pressed for time a little bit. We always like to start here with a bit of a historical grounding and like a brief historical grounding in context, because the right to wear tribal regalia at commencement ceremonies does not exist in a vacuum. When discussing students' right in this context, it's important to note that many Native American students in school today are only 2 generations removed from Native people who were forced into boarding schools. And additionally, 67% of districts in California have lower graduation rates for American Indian and Alaska Native identifying students. But despite the fact that education has been used as a tool of oppression against Native American people in California and nationally, Native American people have always resisted. Native American people and communities have passed down and continue to pass down their cultures, languages, and traditions. Education has always been central to Native American ways of life, and it is in this context that honoring students' right to wear tribal regalia at graduation is even more critical. And these slides will all be shared, so don't worry if we don't touch everything that you're seeing on the slides.
All right, so before we dive deeper, I'd like to pinpoint the legal authority that gives students the right to wear tribal regalia, and I'll go through this a little bit quicker since this was covered at the beginning of the webinar. So as a starting point, under the US and California constitutions and California state laws, students have the right to religious expression and freedom of expression. And in California, K-12 students can wear traditional tribal regalia or recognized objects of religious or cultural significance as an adornment at graduation ceremonies. And again, that's California Ed Code section 35183.1. So we are talking about foundational rights here, the right to free expression and free exercise. And the California statute builds on that and makes that more specific, which allows this, allows students to wear the regalia of their choice. And we also want to highlight and encourage folks to check out the California's Graduation Dress Codes report, which can be accessed through the QR code here. And the report kind of highlights the troubling pattern of violations against Native students' rights to wear tribal regalia, despite the clear legal protections that exist. And just 2 quick findings: 28 LEAs allowed students to wear tribal regalia subject to pre-approval, but nearly all of these LEAs allowed students to wear military uniform with no pre-approval process. And then second, districts with higher suspension rates for Native American students tended to have stricter graduation attire policies. And the report does contain some policy recommendations, and we'll talk about those as well. But those recommendations aim to create a more inclusive and respectful environment in our schools. Next.
And then we will now be sharing, and please let me know if you can't hear the sound, a portion of a video that the ACLU of Northern California put together with the Northern California Indian Development Council, NCIDC for short. That's why you see NCIDC up there. And you'll be hearing directly from Bubba Riggins, who works at the Northern California Indian Development Council. And I will leave it up to him to share more.
Indigenous leaders, humble ceremonies.
My name is Mark Bubba Riggins. Most folks know me as Bubba. I am the Youth Outreach Coordinator with NCIDC, also known as the Northern California Indian Development Council. I'm a Hoopa tribal member and a Yurok person as well. I come from the McCovey and Jackson families. Before them, the Rays and the Nortons as well. For Native people, wearing regalia is about honoring our accomplishments and recognizing as we transition to the different stages in life. It's a way to acknowledge our achievements and maintain a sense of identity. When I graduated from Great Oak High School, they did not allow me to wear my regalia. We had to go through a check system when we went for graduation, and I was questioned about it. But instead, I stood my ground. I wore my feather and my necklaces anyways, because of the deep significance that they hold to me as a family heirloom. For me, it was a symbol of defiance against erasure and a tribute to my uncle who had passed away. At Humboldt State, my experience was completely different than high school. The ITEP program, which stands for the Indian Teaching and Education Personnel Program, actually provided us with the sashes and encouraged us to embrace our cultural identities by wearing regalia and other items. It was truly uplifting to see the university actively supporting and providing resources for our cultural traditions. To Native American people, regalia is more than just clothing. It's a connection to our culture and heritage and our families that have come before us. Wearing it fills me with pride and reminds me of who I am and where I come from.
And this will definitely be linked in, if you want to watch the whole video, I definitely encourage you to do so. It's really, really powerful, but we just wanted to share this short version of Bubba sharing what tribal regalia means to him and his experience wearing tribal regalia at graduation, just because it really is so important for our Native students in California. And we hope that LEAs definitely honor that right this graduation season. But unfortunately, we continue to see LEAs not honor that right, and I'll pass it to Heather to discuss that.
Thanks so much, Dakota. So at California Indian Legal Services, we're a nonprofit law firm and legal aid that serves Native Americans in areas of federal Indian law and tribal law. So we get several calls every year from students who are saying, my rights are not being honored to wear my regalia at graduation. And so just a sampling of some of these stories that we've heard to help demonstrate those particular issues that are coming to our attention. Last year, we heard from a student who says, my school won't let me wear it because they said it's not historical. So the school was judging what is cultural or not and putting it in a historical context. We had the tribe had actually sent this cultural adornment to the student, but the student was being prevented from wearing that because the school had put themselves in the position to determine what was cultural or not and putting it into their own point of view and historical or modern context. Another thing that we've heard is students said, I missed the deadline. It was 4 months ago. I don't graduate till May, but there was deadlines early February. I wasn't ready. I didn't know I needed to prove that this was actually cultural regalia. So the students were having unreasonable barriers to participating in their graduation, in their cultural adornments, that they're afforded rights. We've heard from students that they're being discouraged because their eagle feathers couldn't be too long. They had to be a certain size. And so that folks understand, oftentimes these cultural items are gifted to students to mark that historical, milestone in their lives, that this is something the family's very proud of, that they say, here is a gift and in our cultural way. That doesn't happen 4 months in advance. That happens usually the day before. And students don't have any way to go through a policy that proves what that is because they haven't received it yet. Culturally, that is particular to different families or different tribes, but oftentimes it's something that happens the day before. When my daughter graduated from college, I didn't give it to her until the morning of her graduation. right? So putting these barriers in process is what we're hearing a lot from students about. We hear about, hey, my school's saying this is a distraction about the cultural regalia. And so they're being very, they want uniformity. And so they're naming things a distraction that really are the cultural regalia from that person's family. We've also heard that school staff are discouraging students before they've even gone through the process. Don't bother, it probably won't get approved. That'll probably be deemed a distraction. I wouldn't bother. So what we're seeing are real life impacts to these students who have, completed high school. They're going to celebrate in their true selves as Native Americans, as people indigenous to the lands we stand on, and they have to prove that it is indeed cultural to school districts who are non-Native folks primarily, who want to be in a place of assessing if it's the right culture or not, which is wholly inappropriate and discouraging to students. This is supposed to be a marker of a success and achievement. And if you look at the data about students who are Native American who graduate, you can see the disparities there. And so encouraging students to show up authentically, especially in light of boarding school history, in light of the history of this country, is a really good way for students to support tribal communities and schools to support tribal communities. Okay, next slide.
As Heather was sharing, this is a problem that we've seen year after year, unfortunately, despite the legal protections in the California and federal constitution and the education code, which is why last year we filed a complaint with the Attorney General that I'll have Larissa and Jay share more about.
Thank you, Dakota. So in September of last year, the ACLU of Northern California and California Indian Legal Services submitted a complaint to the Attorney General's office against Clovis Unified School District and other school districts throughout the state for denying Native students the right to wear tribal regalia at graduation ceremonies. And you can find the full report again in the QR code. It's incredibly powerful and very detailed. Highly encourage you all to read that. So one of the big issues at play was the requirement of pre-approval. So it allowed for the unrestricted use of academic items, but restricted traditional tribal regalia or recognized items of religious or cultural significance. It required descriptions of the item's significance. It gave district staff too much discretion to determine whether an item is traditional tribal regalia or culturally or religiously significant. And it also imposed a substantial and onerous administrative obstacle to students, as you heard earlier. The students who wish to wear traditional tribal regalia or other items, and it just kind of was a big issue for them, and some of them preferred to forego those rights rather than having to endure being, questioned or denied permission. Jay, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Thank you, Larissa. The Department of Justice complaint, once again, features one specific school district in California, but it applies to all school districts with similar protocols and criteria. Larissa has pointed out the problematic nature of pre-approval. We think pre-approval tends to suppress students and prevent them from participating in their regalia freedoms secured to them by California state law, this education provision in the education code. But beyond that, I think one of the things California Indian Legal Services wants to make especially clear, this education code section is designed to protect Native students. It's not a carte blanche to school districts to inquire into the authenticity or traditionalism of any particular regalia item. The student offers that regalia item up to the district to wear as an adornment in graduation in good faith. There is no further inquiry other than, will the adornment materially interfere with the graduation ceremony, or will it be likely to cause a substantial disruption? I simply need to emphasize, as a longtime advocate, that Native people are not frozen in time. Native cultures adapt, they evolve. What you may or may not have seen pre-discovery, you may or may not see today. And that doesn't affect the authenticity of the tradition, practice, belief, or item. The other thing that I think we have to be very wary of is that if one adornment works for one Native person, it's going to work for the other Native person. All Native people are different. What works for one, what you see coming from one student or one tribe, you can't assume you're going to see the same adornment from another student in another tribe. Particularly in today's urban environments, you have to be aware of pan-tribal phenomena. And you have to really, be prepared to recognize the adaptive skills of a vibrant, ongoing, vital culture. And I hope you can embrace this opportunity to recognize the significance and self-determination aspects of the statute, and treat the wearing of regalia at a graduation ceremony as part of your own education experience, because Native people will open up, and as I can attest because of my employment history, you will find yourself in unknown and very special worlds. I hope you, as school officials, can take advantage of that and embrace the opportunity. And finally, I would add, look at our resources, because I know we're running out of time. Look at our resources in our toolkit. California Indian Legal Services is the longest standing federal Indian law legal services program in the United States. And we're here to help not only tribes, but school districts comply with the law.
Thank you so much for that, Jay. And now we'll actually be hearing from Gary, who is a superintendent at a school district in California, who is affirmatively supporting students' right to wear tribal regalia at graduation.
Yeah, thanks, Dakota. So just for a little context, Eureka, California, about 5 hours north of San Francisco, about 5 hours from Sacramento, a really beautiful part of the state, and really lucky to have a really rich indigenous culture in this part of the state that we really try to embrace and make sure that our Native community is able to express their identity and really to really capture that. And this work has really been advancing over the years under the leadership of our Indian education team, which is led by Shauna Morales. I think I saw her on the participants call, but she's the real rock star here, and she's what made all of these bullets happen on the slide. So in addition to, I'm going to talk quick because I know we're short on time. So in addition to allowing our Native youth to wear necklaces or feathers or basket caps or regalia of their choosing, like we also work with Native local artisans and with our Native American clubs to design a unique sash each year that our Indigenous youth are able to wear during our promotion ceremonies, which I think is really, really great. They receive these sashes at their own recognition night that happens a couple of days before graduation. We kind of make a big to-do of it. They love it. Their family comes, and to a lot of people who have spoke to this on the call, like this a couple of years ago when we started this Native recognition night, it was in a little room in the back of the district office, and now it's had to move into the auditorium that seats 600 people. So like it is really making a big difference in extending partnership to our Native families, which we're super proud of. And then, so in addition to, what happens, on the last day of school, we also try to, make sure that we embrace identity in a variety of different ways. A couple of years back, we started hosting a California Native Day, which turned into a California Native Week. We invite the community. It's everybody in Eureka City Schools gets to participate in it. Eureka City Schools coordinates with the neighboring school district to participate in what we call Success of Both Worlds. It's a cultural workshop and field trip, which is amazing. Our seniors get to go back to the UROC Head Start, so their preschool communities, and get to demonstrate, what a graduate looks like to our 3 and 4 year olds, which is really outstanding. And there's a host of other really wonderful things that Shauna and her team has been able to do, from organizing field trips up to Cal Poly and College of the Redwoods, our higher ed partners in the region, to out of the area field trips, to making sure that our 4th graders, when they're studying the gold rush, also get a local history perspective of what that actually meant to our Native community. So I'm just super proud of the work that Eureka City Schools has been able to do and really thrive under the leadership of Shauna Morales and the Indian Ed team at Eureka City Schools.
Great. Those sound awesome. Great ideas there. Okay, really quickly, best practices. I think we've already heard some of these, but I'll highlight those as we think about going into this graduation season. Really encouraging students to wear regalia or their cultural adornments. Make it safe. A lot of students get the discouragement and they just would rather walk away and not deal with it, not stick out and not make a problem. So we've heard that a lot, but encourage your students to wear their regalia at graduation. Consult with tribal communities and tribes and individual families. Hold those meetings frequently, learn about it, work with the youth and the families, and really the advocates who are out there talking about that. So understanding that, I think, is really important. Update your graduation policies. Those are really important. And I would stress that you update the policy to eliminate a pre-approval. That is where we see the hang up happening. That's the deterring for tribal students, Native American students coming in. Eliminate those limitations to their cultural or religious adornments. That makes a big difference for students being able to authentically show up as themselves. Also, within this policy, make sure that your local school staff and your day of graduation on-site staff know these policies so that they don't step into a situation of discouraging students beforehand or day of, ruining that student's graduation day by taking a feather or taking a cultural adornment. So that policy is really important in the training. And respect and honor students and their regalia or their cultural adornments. Students and their families determine what is tribal regalia. That's really important to grasp. That student, even if they're a part of the tribe, that student and their family, they determine that. That is very much grounded in cultural respect. So listen to your students and their families. They're going to show up in the right way. They understand what that means to their broader tribal community. So their cultural adornments, they're going to come in a respectful way already. So the school districts respecting that is really paramount.
And if we have any students or advocates or families on the call, we also wanted to share what we would recommend for you to advocate for yourself to ensure your right to wear tribal regalia or other cultural or religious adornments at graduation. And this is all further detailed in our toolkit, as Jay kind of mentioned previously. It's a joint toolkit between the ACLU of Southern California, ACLU of Northern California, and California Indian Legal Services. And it's updated every year. We just did an update in April, so it's very up to date. It has anything you could ever need to advocate for yourself, including what we've listed here, such as writing a letter. There's templates there that you can use. There's more information about filing a uniform complaint procedure, if that's something that you feel would be useful to you in your situation. And as always, California Indian Legal Services and the ACLU are here as a resource for you. If you'd like to contact the ACLU, you can email graduation@aclunc.org. And you can also contact CILS using info@calindian.org or going to their website to see their coverage map. And we encourage you to reach out to us, even if you are using the toolkit. We would love to hear from you and to support you and to ensure that your rights are respected. This is an issue that we really deeply care about and have been working on for years, and we want to serve not only as a resource, but as an advocate for you. If you are a student or family member or know somebody, do not hesitate to reach out to us. And that's our presentation. The rest are just resources. And all of this will be sent out to you as the folks at CDE have already shared. But we really thank you all so much for attending today, and we hope that this has been helpful for you.
Thank you very much, Dakota, and well, everybody. Thank you, Dakota. Oh my goodness, I'm tongue-tied here, but Native American legal assistance, Eureka City Schools, for sharing those resources. Very, very, very helpful. And as you mentioned, we will definitely make sure that you all have those resources, just because we are very much at that cusp of graduation. Apologies again for that little typo in the inbox. It has been corrected. So please do email us at our American Indian inbox, the AIEOC inbox at cde.ca.gov with any questions that you have. And with that, thank you so much again. Really appreciate it. And have a great day. Thank you.